Yeah, he is.
Thank you. Well, we're live again in the studio for another round of Jasper Eco Dev podcasts. I think this is like number 4-ish, 5, 3. Thank you, producer, that we've recorded. And we're continuing to learn that these are valuable and that people are enjoying tuning in. So again, thank you, Jason, for doing these.
My pleasure.
We also have a special guest today, Dave Bullock, who is president of Capstone Homes Prescott Division, as well as Eco Homes. So we're excited that you're here with us today. So we'll be hearing from Dave and Jason a little bit later as we talk about Capstone kind of history, partnership, and also introduction of Eco Homes, which our residents will start to see as we continue development in phase 3. But I want to get started with just kind of recapping because it feels like we were just here and it was June.
It was that long ago.
Yeah, it feels a lot. It feels a lot longer, but I don't know.
What do you want to recap?
Well, I'm just curious,
You're
Jason.
making me nervous.
What what's been the last quarter like for you?
The last quarter has not been fun. The last quarter has been a serious slog. Obviously, high interest rates. And then the presidential election. Number one comment that we're hearing from people, which I don't know that it's really rational. It's very emotional time for people in the country because it doesn't matter what you believe. They're upset. And so the number one comment has been, if I knew who the president was going to be, then I'd make a decision to move by. And so it's been rough. Lots of work. We've been scraping out deals, and Dave can get into that more in a more exact way than I can, but lots of effort for a minimal amount of deals. I say it that way. I think we'll end up somewhere between 100 and 120 houses sold in Jasper in 2024. So when we look at it, when we hover up and look at it, compared to other subdivisions, if that happens, we will have done well. Mm-hmm. That was our pace through July. Fell off a little bit in August, and I'm hearing positive things about September. So we'll see how it plays out.
You use that word pace. So how would you speak to just the national kind of state of the world and how it's impacted your kind of pacing, scheduling, or where you thought maybe we would be at Jasper versus reality?
At October of last year, I would have told you that compared to what we've done versus what I would have said at that time, we've exceeded expectations. I thought it was going to be worse. We had a blip in December, January, where we sold some houses, loaded up on specs. All the builders did, and those specs have sat a bit. We're in the process. Pricing is more aggressive to get those houses turned over now. And really what we were doing is following the trends of Metro Phoenix. Everybody got excited about December, January. Rates went down kind of at Thanksgiving. Looked like things were going to start going the right direction, and then we got bad news in the first quarter as far as inflation went. So we didn't get the relief on the interest rates that we thought we were going to get in that window. Next week, we probably start to get that relief. And we'll see how it plays out. It's always the problem in this business. It's driven by macroeconomic phenomenon. So we make a plan and set out to execute it, and the market favors us or it doesn't. In my experience, it isn't so much our subdivision sells better than the neighbors. When buyers are in the marketplace, all the builders, all the subdivisions will sell simultaneously. When buyers are not in the marketplace, everybody's twiddling their thumbs going, gee, where'd the buyers go? And so you just have to be persistent. It takes a ton of stamina, some guts from time to time, the financial capability to hang around. You always have to be planning for the downside, and it'll correct itself. So the question becomes, is that by Christmas time? Is it by March? Is it July of next year? Nobody knows. So we'll see. But, my best guess is that by the end of the first quarter next year, no matter who the president is, rates will be considerably lower than they've been. young folks in major metro areas will be able to buy older folks' houses. The older folks, especially this year, it's been a bunch of Phoenix relocation this year. California is pretty quiet. But as young folks can afford the payment, maybe they got a bonus, maybe they got a promotion. Houses start to trade, and we see buyers again. As a primary, and I think this overall is positive, the majority of our buyers are primary residents, probably 98% of them.
Absolutely, yep.
And so the primary resident versus a secondary or second home like Flagstaff or somewhere else, it's very important for the person who's selling to get their equity out of their house. That sets their budget.
Absolutely.
And so this year we've had primarily Phoenix relocation up the hill. Probably looks exactly like California, where the kids, the grandkids, they have jobs, they have lives. We're close to them, but we're getting out of too hot, too smoggy, too congested. And but we can still go to a D-backs game if we'd like to. Or I can still go see my specialist. You know, medical side of things, obviously, lots of people still travel back and forth to their doctors that they trust. So I think by the end of the first quarter, we'll see momentum, and besides the rates, the last 2 to 3 years, we clearly have pent-up demand in the marketplace. There's folks that would like to move. They're a little nervous to move right now, but that's been going on for months that turn into years, and now it's a couple, 3 years. And so historically what we see in scenarios like that is once there'll be early adopters, people that'll come in. And like right now, if you could get a rate at 3.75, which I know you can, buy a house, you got builders that are pretty pliable. They'll make you a deal.
Dave's nodding, by the way.
Well, you look at it and you the smart ones will start to do the math, and they'll go, wait a minute, why would I use my cash? If I can lock into a long-term rate that's cheap and get a discount, I want to beat the herd to the deal. So that'll just start momentum. And then, you know, people are herd animals, and they see the herd heading a new direction, and they follow. And so I think that the pent-up demand, lower rates, Phoenix producing a lot of jobs. California looks like a lost cause to me. I don't see how it can get better. I mean, you can't even charge your electric car right now. They probably wish they had a gas vehicle, huh?
Probably.
Stuart's probably going to fire me for that one, but hopefully he doesn't listen to this. So that I'm optimistic, but I wouldn't be in this business if I wasn't optimistic. And you always have to survive tight spots, tough times, periods of time where you don't really understand why your business plan isn't working. You generally understand in hindsight, but as far as anticipating what's going to go on, it's always gambling.
That word persistence, too, I feel like is a common thread. But I don't mean to pivot us too much, but you brought up another really critical kind of term, which was speaking to people purchase in Jasper. It's their primary home.
Yes.
People operate under a deep level of care for this community because it is their primary home, and it's ultimately their forever home is how a lot of people look at that purchase here in Jasper. And this is a segue into, and I've shared with you previously, you know, we had an annual survey that went out to our Jasper residents. We had almost 200 respondents of people that operate under that level of care. I want to see this community thrive. Here's kind of some of my opinions.
How many residents do we have?
We have, I would say probably close to almost 700. We're close to 430-ish homes right now.
Households. So 430 households, approximately.
Correct.
It's a lot.
Yeah. And so we were grateful that we saw the response. And what struck me in some of the comments, which is a good time for us to have this update, is we can address some of those comments. So, you know, the level of care that people have for this community sometimes turns into expectations. Sometimes it turns into assumptions. And sometimes there's inaccuracies in that. And I know you're laughing because we've talked about this before. So, you know, one of the things that's come up, and I appreciate you and Dave Everson spent some time addressing this our last session as we talked about landscape repairs. And obviously there's been some work happening, but this is a continuous hot button topic. And I know you've had some revelations as it relates to the look of Jasper and grass and those pieces too. So could you provide a little bit of an update in terms of from where you sit, landscape repairs, what you're envisioning in terms of some common area landscape changes too?
Sure. So we don't like buckets that aren't planted any more than anybody else. Let's start there. So I can assure everyone who's listening to this that we would like to see the landscape repairs made that we discussed on the last podcast sooner versus later. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, in the marketplace this year, there has been a shortage of bushes, shrubs, trees. And so that's not me taking Dave Everson at his word. That's trust but verify. And so whether you're in Prescott Valley or Prescott and you have Prescott Valley growers or some other source for your plants, now my voice is really going to sound weird, which is great. We're under duress here, folks. My nose may have started bleeding. And so the bottom line is that the marketplace is short on supply of plants to plant. The natural thing that happens under this scenario is the plants go into the houses that are closing first.
Makes sense.
So I guarantee you that there is a neighbor that's going to listen to this and say, we're more important. I hear it, right? Mm-hmm. I get it. And unfortunately, it's human nature. They got to stay in business. Mm-hmm. If we're going to get our landscaping fixed, they have to have the money to fix it. So they're going to close their houses first.
Right.
I won't ask Mr. Bullock to, verify that assumption, but I'm very sure that I'm correct. So next piece of it is we've made progress. Mm-hmm. We aren't perfect. We continue to see progress being made at too slow of a pace, and we will continue to apply pressure in order to get the repairs made. Moving forward, let's hover up. So there's some folks, I always like to explain it this way. If you own the Hampton Inn, there can be some cigarette butts in the planter beds. Mm-hmm. If you own the Ritz-Carlton, it has to be completely perfect, right? So some people expect completely perfect all the time. Mm-hmm. Other people are more laid back about it, and they go, man, because it's a relative comment.
Sure.
So at the end of the day, I don't think that anybody's more critical than we are because we're the ones with a giant investment. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying that to belittle someone buying a house. For the majority of people, that's the largest investment they own during the course of their lifetime. But we're very aware of it. We want our subdivision to look as best it possibly can. We would like to have happy customers, happy residents. And this item, in my experience, is always one that's a tough one. There's always going to be challenges and problems. So, segue into grass. We've removed grass, I think, twice so far. We have another round of grass removal coming. Why? Well, we had our best grass year ever. I'm dying here. We had our best grass year ever. And unfortunately, it got dry again and hot and the wind blew. So then the grass starts looking poor again. And we picked out two areas that look especially poor that are being priced presently so that we can replace the grass during the winter. Mm-hmm. That's when we tend to do it. I bring it up because at the annual meeting last year, we had multiple residents that said, hey, noticed you removed grass.
Yay.
And we like that because we don't like the long-term expense. Mm-hmm. I think that there's some folks that say, keep my dues where they're at forever. I don't want to pay extra. And the more you can tidy things up or tighten things up, the better chance that my dues never move. Mm-hmm. There are other folks that look at it and say, I don't think the use of water on grass in a high desert environment is a smart thing. So they're all over the board. And what we're trying to do is, of course, I talk about teeter-totters a lot. We're trying to balance all of that out. Mm-hmm. Our goal is always to keep our dues as cheap as possible. That helps us sell houses. The reality of it is, I feel lucky that we haven't had to do anything with dues based on inflation.
Right.
Everybody's paying more for everything. The dues haven't moved. I know that you got some comments from folks saying like, my dues, I'm paying extra. I'm like subsidizing the developer somehow. There's no subsidy that's going on except for the developer subsidizing the HOA, J Club, and food and beverage.
Yes.
And so I can't sit here today, Marlo, and tell you exactly how many dollars that is. I would guess it's somewhere in the $1.5 million range since we opened. When you add all three of those categories
Since
up,
like December 2022. Yeah.
I mean, the restaurant's $30,000 a month. That's during the summer,
Right.
the good months.
Right.
So it's significant. I'm not whining, not complaining. I'm just trying to put facts out there for people to understand.
I always appreciate the facts, and I think the way that you've expressed this, the understanding of the subsidy too, as it's related to food and beverage, it makes a lot of sense, recognizing that you all are looking at that as an investment from a marketing perspective. Can you speak to that a little bit too, in terms of how you're evaluating?
We've never had a marketing budget at Jasper. My experience in the last 26, 27 years in Central Yavapai County is put your money in your projects. There's lots of times where projects get talked about, then they don't get built. So what I've learned locally is that if we've got framed walls, the market will find us. There are plenty of marketing people that would say this is wrong-headed, that's not a very smart plan. I might get criticized about that from time to time. The first marketing budget, just an interesting historical factoid, the proposal was $2.2 million for 1 year of marketing. So $2.2 million, and how do I even, my problem is okay. So if I spent 2.2, what kind of return do I get?
Right.
Right. It's the tension between marketing folks and business owners or whatever the case may be. So where do we spend our money? We spend our money on our landscaping. My recall is phase one landscaping was $4.9 million on approximately 88 acres of land. Nobody does that here. That was expensive to install. It's expensive to maintain. As time goes on and we gain more residents, then that cost gets spread across more households. And so by a rooftop, that cost goes down. Why do we do it? Well, because nobody else has. Nobody spent that kind of money in Prescott Valley. Now, Stone Ridge, they might say back in the day, well, we did. Well, they have two giant signs. You drive into you got a landscape median, you drive through a canyon. I mean, it doesn't look like our landscaping. So that's the first piece of marketing. The next piece of marketing, which let me just anticipate the objection there. Someone says, well, we're paying for their marketing.
Right.
Well, we're the ones subsidizing it because the dues don't cover the cost
they do not.
to maintain it. Second piece of it, signage. We don't have any. We don't have a marketing window. It is not standard operating procedure for anybody to spend the money, forget about Jasper, for a subdivision without a marketing window. Well, our marketing window is, Santa Fe Loop it's got to be over a mile from Glassford Hill, right? Probably it's a section. I don't know. We made that decision not because we wanted to, but because that's where the utilities were at, where the water and the sewer was at specifically, and Santa Fe Loop, the road. So that's where Jasper had to start. Any other option was probably plus $15 million.
Wow.
So I bring that up because Jasper Parkway South will connect to Highway 69. We're on schedule to be paved out in October. The first lift of pavement is down. People can drive by now and see the road. I think it will not only improve the lives of our residents because they'll be able to shoot out to Highway 69, Sprouts, restaurants, whatever they want to do, Trader Joe's, Costco. It all gets easier to get to. From a marketing perspective, we'll actually have some form of a window. We'll let Dave Bullock talk about the model complex that will be in phase 3. And then signage, which I don't know why it's such a struggle. Our development agreement allows us to have a comprehensive sign package, which has been submitted to Prescott Valley. I don't know, 9 months at least we've been working on trying to get an approval. Prescott Valley doesn't really have a signage code in their land development code. They like our signage. It will get approved. There will be signage. I can't tell you exactly what signage looks like, but signage will include some form of monument sign and then wayfinding signs, so signs on the way from the highway into Jasper, as well as signs within Jasper so that folks can get to Capstone Homes, or they can get to Eco Homes, or they can get to Mandalay. So the signage will be permanent, but the placards on the sign will be able to change so that we can get people to the right spot from a marketing perspective. Last piece then is food and beverage. You were at the annual meeting. Number one positive comment that we received was food and beverage. We love having food and beverage available to us. And you go, okay, that costs a lot of money. Back to the marketing budget. So if we're subsidizing, somewhere between 30 and 50 grand a month in order to keep that restaurant open, it's a lot of money. It's not 2.2 million. I recognize that. I'd rather spend it this way, right? And we're getting the positive feedback. We're getting the response that we want. We love this part of Jasper. So we've now we've received our liquor license. So we'll have a rollout, and you can talk about rollout. You're closer to it than I am, but we will be serving alcohol and cocktails. I guess I don't want to confuse people. We serve alcohol already. We have wine and beer, but cocktails are coming next. We hope that helps us, takes away some of that subsidy. My best guess is that as time, we're going to have to be really big and really mature to get to a chance to be in break even on food and beverage. It's a volatile marketplace. The ingredients that are going into the dishes are high end. Part of why the food is good. They're doing a great job of preparing the food. We get great positive feedback, and so it's worth it. Moving into the future, we hope to expand that offering as it relates to year-round.
Sure.
How is that going to happen? I don't know. We were looking at alternatives earlier in the year. The year has been a slog.
Sure.
We haven't been sprinting to that next level. It's just a practical decision. And so that's how we've marketed and why we've marketed the way we've marketed the subdivision to date. Moving forward, our vision would be that our company, the holding company, would have there'll be multiple developments in both Prescott Valley and the Prescott zip code, and we'll somehow market our family of offerings so that and I think what that looks like is some kind of a welcome center at the Granite Dells Parkway traffic interchange in 89A, where a potential buyer comes in and they say, hey, hi, I'm Pete. I'm looking for a new house and my budget is $600, not to exceed $650. Okay, well, we're going to get you over here with the sales folks for XYZ Home, whoever it is. And, Susie will meet you at the models and they'll show you around, because that's based on what you're telling us. This is the offering that fits your budget.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I know we'll talk a little bit more as it relates to Jasper and the leverage of having that visualization, the monument signage, and how it's going to aid in that marketing window. Obviously, since J Club opened December 2022, we've seen that's been a kind of visual focal point that's been driving people into the community, and we've seen a lot of people begin their Jasper journey at J Club. And so, speaking to this piece around investment, and I'm curious just the rationale behind it. Some of the questions that we get from residents, and sometimes it's just a misunderstanding, is why is J Club private? And why is it separate from Jasper Community Association? And how is that kind of looked at? And maybe if you can speak to that piece too, I think that could provide some additional clarity.
So there's a couple of pieces to private, right? So private meaning we own it, not the association
Correct.
to start. So there's always tension in all subdivisions where residents want to tell the developer how to do it, what to spend, how it should look, level of care, if you will. And so to maintain the entity, the asset privately, makes it absolutely clear that we have no intention of adding a resident at any time in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Why? You said 480 households?
Under that, more like 420-ish.
So our approval is 3,450, 3,450 houses. I'm going to tell you that we're not going to make that amount of houses. 28 to 3,000 would be my guess. 2,800 to 3,000 houses at completion. When does that happen? Well, if you're going to sell 100 to 120 houses per year, and we have 400 for a round number,
Sure.
we've got a long way to go. So what does that mean? Well, something like J Club's going to have to be maintained, first of all, right? It's going to have to be refreshed. Might even be added to. I don't know. We'll see where the market takes us. But for us to the amount of risk that's been taken to date, and the last podcast we went over some kind of facts and figures for dollars spent to date. If we intentionally created something different in this zip code in this marketplace, and we're going to make sure that it stays up to our standards. I understand that my standards might not be yours, or they might not be Larry's, but with all the risk that we've taken and all the work that we've done, we're not going to make decisions by committee. And so some people might say, well, gee, that's really a bad way to do it. Okay. It's our risk. We stand by it, and we're going to make the business decisions. So that's the first answer. The next thing about privacy, obviously we offer an offsite membership, short-term, medium-term, generally described as short-term so we can control that too, not more than 12 months at a time. We're doing that to do two things. One, it creates the possibility of subsidy for the losses. I guess there's three. Two, more people buying things reduces the amount of cost, hopefully. If we were completely private and you wanted your cheeseburger that everybody loves, and we were charging $49.99 for a cheeseburger, nobody would come eat our cheeseburger, right? So we're trying to manage to costs on a monthly basis. Last piece is back to marketing. What better way for someone to get to know our product, our level of care, our style? This club does that for us. And so that, again, subsidizing the package all gets rolled up in under the heading of marketing. And as it relates to J Club, if someone can come here and go to the pool or attend a yoga class or just meet their friends for dinner, they might want to live here someday. And we see that as good and positive. And the feedback we get is positive along those lines. Like, keep doing this. So you always have a situation where a loud voice drowns out a lot of people that aren't speaking much. But when you run your surveys and you get your responses, there's an overwhelming support for what we're doing in this regard. Absolutely. And so into the future, will the club always be private? The answer is no. Well, at what point would you turn the club over to the residents? Great question. I may be long retired. I don't know. And the market could get up and roar, and it goes over the next decade. But it's certainly over a long period of time. I guess that's the message that I want to put out there. Honestly, it's 10 to 15 years if everything went perfect, and this year sure didn't go perfect. So, 20 might be a decent guess. We'll see what happens.
Hopefully we won't be doing podcasts 20 years from now.
Well, you never know. The podcast is fun, right? So it breaks up the monotony of the day. You always have some zinger question for me because you want to try to trip me, which, I don't know if that's real smart, but that's okay. It's genuine. People can say a lot of things about me, but I'll tell you the truth. And the podcast reflects that.
Yeah.
It's two people. We got three people talking today.
Yeah.
But here's the State of the Union, folks, and it gives us the ability to touch people more often, right? That was the grain of sand. The first little piece of this is like, hey, do you want to go do developer meetings? And the honest answer is no. Why? Well, I got lots of stuff to do, and I've got a career going to these meetings. I'd prefer not to have to attend them. I'd rather go home, see my family. Well, the podcast is great. We get together when it's convenient for us to do so. We talk about timely subjects. We get feedback. We build a library, and our listeners, our residents, our customers, they get to listen to it at their convenience as well. So it's really worked out well.
Yeah, and you're right. It's created a thread as community life staff is able to have these as an archive that we can provide as new residents move in so that they can get some history and context. So it goes beyond just the time that we're recording this, right? It lives and it lives on, which is fantastic. We do have a third person in the room, which is a good segue into,
I thought he was asleep over there for a second.
Very much awake, which is a good segue into kind of our partnership theme of being together today. But what all that you've kind of talked about too today, Jason, is an acknowledgement of like, we have a brand identity here at Jasper, and we have a culture, and we have something unique that we've created. And while there's been a lot of intentionality and focus that you've spent developing that, it's not without the partnerships that are in place that have brought that to life. And one of those partnerships is with Capstone Homes. So before we introduce Dave and Dave starts answering some of my zingers, can you talk a little bit about your history with Capstone, and as you were thinking about Jasper, why Capstone and kind of how that came to fruition?
Very simple. I'm a relationship guy. Our landscaper, landscape maintenance, High Desert, Brian Bundrick is the owner. I played Little League Baseball with Brian in Tucson, Arizona, starting when I was 11 years old. And one day he said, you ought to meet Brian Roten, guy that owns Capstone Homes. And I'd heard of Brian and I'd heard of Capstone, but I didn't know him. So we went to lunch. And we talked, and his style, his MO is very much like mine. We got along very easy conversations. Nobody, I wasn't put on the defensive. I think he'd say the same thing. It's like, this is what I'm doing. There's opportunity. Don't know if it fits you or not, but love to show it to you. So we looked at mapping, and at that point, my recall is we had mass grading going in phase 1. And so we kind of talked about the possibilities. Mandalay I already had to deal with in the middle market. And so Capstone builds high-end homes in the Flagstaff market. They're headquartered in Flagstaff. And so Brian took a big risk. It would be not a good bet in most people's mind for a builder to come into Prescott Valley and build a house that might be, as much as $1 million. And so Brian took that bet, and we've sold houses now for over $1 million. And that wasn't like a goal or anything. It just, in Prescott Valley, that just really hadn't been done much. On the fringes, maybe a couple here or there type of a thing. That was a very Prescott type deal. But you talked about our branding, and you talked about the fact that we're trying to build a brand. Our architecture is different. That was all on purpose. That credit goes to Stuart Swanson, not me. And Brian, he liked it. He was turned on by it. It was a challenge, and he said, "Yeah, I think I'd like to take a whack at it." So, frankly, Capstone was taking on water here until we started J Club. So, historically, in master plan communities, you get this pretty picture, or maybe it's a big screen TV that shows you your club that you're going to get someday. And so we actually had been working towards starting the club in conjunction with phase one. Mm-hmm. The money just got so big and nasty we couldn't do it. And so it's in phase two, I believe, that we built the club. Didn't really answer my question. Our producer thinks that I know that April of 2020 we may have or may not have been doing phase two, but I think I'll just stick with it. I think that we built, started building the club in conjunction with the start of phase two, generally speaking, and so that created opportunity for Capstone because they could bring their early buyers over and say, well, this pretty picture goes with that equipment that is digging right now on this piece of land. Mm-hmm. And so sales started to pick up. So from there, Mr. Bullock, who now runs Capstone, and then we'll end up talking about Eco, which he also runs here in Yavapai County, was found by Brian and his partner, Jerry. And Dave moved here from Nashville in the summer of 2022.
That's correct, yeah.
Ooh, I got that one right. Yeah, no, that doesn't happen very much. I don't do well backwards. I'm definitely an anticipator in life. And so that's, in a nutshell, how Capstone came to Jasper. And Dave can get into more of the specifics of what they're up to, but we do I'll sign off with Brian Roten took a risk on us, and we appreciated that. And we're very happy that when we took the corresponding next risk, which was to build the club, mm-hmm. that it worked, because it doesn't always work. Mm-hmm. You know, the history of these developments and builders, it's volatile.
Yeah. And that partnership is critical, and then finding the right people to come in. So, hi, Dave.
Hello.
Taking a whack at it. So, is that how they sold you on Capstone to get you to move from Nashville? Or maybe you can talk a little bit about your past experience and what brought you to Capstone.
Sure. Well, great to be with you. This is a great format. I've really enjoyed just sitting here listening to Jason and talk about Jasper. I'm passionate about Jasper. I'm a resident, live here. My wife and I, Rachel, and my daughter, Malia, and we love it. And hearing some of the, more detail to what Jason's produced here, what this team's produced here is really exciting and awesome. But as far as getting me here, there was a lot more discussion around the future, and meeting with Jason and Brian. It didn't take a whole lot for me to see the future because of what Jason's just covered. They've created the future, and they're not waiting for the future to come to them. And so when I saw that, it was quite easy for me to see the vision of Capstone, of Jasper, of eco development, and then really eco homes. And that's exciting. And that's what really brought me here, was the opportunity, the future, the excitement, the change, the challenge. I think you have to be a little touched in the head to be in this business. If you're not, you're going to struggle. So it's an exciting proposition. It's happening. The future is taking shape, and I'm excited to be here. I've had the good fortune of building from the west coast of Orange County, California, to Tampa, Florida, and everything in between. And to be here in Prescott Valley at Jasper, it's a big change with a lot of challenge, but a lot of excitement and a lot of bright future. Mm-hmm. And so Brian taking that risk, Jason and Stuart putting it out into the market, and putting all of the investment that Jason just talked about and making it real is very exciting. The other thing I would say that was very apparent to me, Universal Homes with Joe Contadino, Joe's already done it. He did it here at Granville. So I've been around long enough that when I saw all the rooftops, it's like, well, he did it. We'll do it. And we're doing it. We're doing it at Jasper, and we're doing it in Yavapai County. Mm-hmm. So Capstone's in a unique and special place now, as the market's going to grow and change. And we're going to build this company and partner with Jason and Stuart and everything that we're doing here. So excited to be here, excited to see the growth in the market. It is a slog. And fortunately, I've been around long enough too to be through a few cycles. And so this is quite normal in home building and in the market. And so I understand that. Jason understands that. Brian understands it. And we know what we're seeing, and we're building the future. And it takes resilience, fortitude, risk, and we're making it happen. So exciting time here.
Yeah.
Challenging time, but exciting time.
That history just speaks to the credibility. And as I've told Jason before, builder and developer reputation come up over and over again in these annual surveys. So you hear it here in terms of your resume and the history. And I would imagine you don't have credibility without learning and applying, right? So as I look at where Jasper is today, and I know, as it relates to Capstone, Jasper, and I'm just going to use neighborhood numbers for the sake of my own sanity. So I apologize to Jason and his producer. But, we have construction in J7 happening. We have construction right now happening in neighborhood JP3B. So what are you seeing in terms of learnings and application as we start looking forward to October and beyond with phase 3 development? So what are some of the things that you're kind of going to be addressing or focusing on into the next phase?
Yeah, so Jason did a great job of talking about market conditions, what we could see, no crystal ball, but the realities of the market and what we believe is going to take place. We just don't know exactly when. It really isn't if, it is truly when. Preparing for that, we're really doing quite well. We're selling very steadily in J7. That's been a great success with Capstone, and we have 6 more homes to sell. We will close that whole community out by the first quarter of next year.
Wow!
So that's awesome. I mean, as challenging as it's been, I think Capstone partnering with Eco Development and with Jason and the team, we've solved the challenges and we've done very well. In J3, we just opened our new models for Capstone, and we're very proud of them. We're very excited about it, and we set a new bar for all of Jasper and for this market in Prescott Valley with our level of quality, the level of home that we are now constructing, and really the buyer experience that we've created there. So that's what I see. We're going to continue to see that thrive and be a success. And we're closing out. We have 1 home to construct in phase 1 of J3. That community, and I live in that community, it's a wonderful community. And it's the community that Brian really took the risk on that Jason referred to, that Capstone built. And it turned out to be a very, very beautiful community. So we have 5 homes there offered right now. Speaking to the residents here and those who will listen to this, it's a really good time to buy a home from Capstone Homes and in Jasper. I don't know that it'll ever be better. So that's my opinion. That's what I see in the market. The values are still there. We haven't discounted. We haven't hurt our market value, our appraised values. It's just a great value. It's as good as it's going to get. So we're going to leverage that. We're going to leverage Jasper 3 for Capstone. We're going to go into the next phase, and we'll talk about that, which is development phase 5, and continue on our product line there in J7, where we've had such success. And then, we're going to get in and talk about the exciting phase 3, which Village 8 or Jasper 8.
Thank you,
right?
Dave.
So we're keeping all that straight, you and I. And phase 3 with Jasper Parkway going in, Capstone and Eco Homes, we're going to be the builders, the companies that are providing homes in that entire phase. And it's going to be spectacular and very, very exciting. It's going to be just such a great presence there off of Jasper Parkway. And then the views overlooking the club and into the Horizons 360 is a pretty exciting proposition. So that's what we're leveraging. That's where we're headed as Capstone. We can talk a little bit more about Eco, but it's really building on everything that Eco's already established here. And we're well positioned to do that and to move into the next phases and really be the premier builder here in Jasper for all those years that Jason referenced that we could be here.
And building on that credibility of Capstone and the introduction of Eco, Jason, I know you had mentioned it when we did our last podcast, but for those maybe that didn't listen, or maybe to even offer some additional color, talk to us a little bit about why Eco, why now, and kind of the relevance of that.
The short history is Stuart and I didn't set out to develop Jasper.
You didn't want to be a home builder probably either.
We didn't want to be a developer.
Period.
Right?
Okay.
No. The business plan was simple. Entitle the property, acquire the water for the lots, and sell it to a public home builder. Well, nobody wanted to buy it. So the market made the decision for us. Said, okay, we can either sit here and wait, or we can push forward, get in the development business, and sell finished lots to home builders. So that's how we started along the path. So I'm in the middle of my 14th year with Stuart. And so I'm going to tell you that at least a decade ago, we're talking about Joe Contadino, who Dave mentioned. Mm-hmm. And for those that would have really no reason to know, Joe's a living legend in Arizona. He's done everything there is to do in development and home building. He's sold his business. He was the presumptive CEO of Del Webb, decided he wasn't going to do that, came up here and started Granville. So we'd look at it and go, man, how are we going to do that? I'm not a builder guy. Stuart certainly isn't a builder. We understand finance. And so we looked at it for many years and said, how can we create a home builder that we can help finance, but we don't have to do the work necessarily, right? Because my plate's full. My desk is always full, as you know, and there's always projects going on, and it's just I will never not be busy until I retire, for sure. And so we kept looking at it, and we call it synthetic builder. Like, how do we get to a synthetic builder? And we talk about it, and then we go, man, really don't want to spend the money because we've got to spend the money on this, that, and the other.
Right.
So as time wore on, and the public home builders were here looking to buy finished lots from us, the problem is that I don't speak public home builder well at all. And so the corporate guys and the way that they negotiate, frankly, just made me mad. And I would admit this, and I'd say, I recognize that this is my shortcoming and that I need to get over myself, but, and then I'd start venting. And then Stuart would come right in behind me and say, yeah, maybe some cuss words and stuff. And he'd end up on my side of the conversation. And then so you go, okay, so what are we going to do now? Well, we're going to do it ourselves. And so the relationship with Brian and Capstone that led us to Dave Bullock, we end up with, there's this guy in Nashville we know, right? And so we get him to come out and meet with us, and we talk to him. And the guy in Nashville works for a big public home builder, and frankly, he probably could have just coasted home for the rest of his career and retire wherever he wanted. Mm-hmm. But what we were looking to do is not try to kind of roll your own, bring in a pro from outside the market, and then say to him or her at the time, here's our opportunity, here's what we're willing to do for you, and this is what we expect of you. And that was really simple. You're going to build your own business. You're going to tell us what you need. We have the inventory for the business. That's very, very hard to acquire. We don't have debt on that inventory. That's a huge thing. So we have stability. We have staying power. But we're not going to tell you how to run your business. You're going to call me and say, hey, man, I need help with this or that. Mm-hmm. So I think that the offer was stimulating to Mr. Bullock because he went, that's interesting. It allows me to be entrepreneurial. I get to move back to the West. There were wins in it for him. The risk for us, when we build lots, we have to sell them to a builder. And so I think I told this story on the last podcast where my opening offer from Dave Everson was $900 a front foot, which basically just boils down to like nothing. Like, are you kidding me? I'm broke already. I haven't even started. And so we had to figure out a way to share risk. Hopefully someday we'll share in some cost. For the most part, we still bear the brunt of the cost across the board. That's changing, but to this point, I don't know how you'd even. It's a lot to a little type of a scenario. Maybe there'll be some evening out. Hopefully, maybe there won't. I don't know. It just boils down to the fact that in a normal environment, it's me against the builder. If the market goes the wrong way, if it goes sideways, I'm going to lose or the builder is going to lose. That's how deals get negotiated in major metro areas. And so we said, well, if we share risk, which we were willing to do, well, then we're going to share in the reward. So that was the beginning, the genesis of what has now become Eco Homes.
Correct.
So we found our guy, we brought our guy in. He goes to work building his company, which is great because I don't have any time, right? Stuart is in pharma. Our team's skill set is not building anything, and so the next piece of it, as the producer laughs at us and makes fun of us, it's hard to be serious on a podcast.
I know.
When your own producer
Laughs at you.
Just
Yeah.
sits in.
like constantly making fun of us.
I know. Just pretend he's not there.
It's just horrible. So we're not set up to do it. He is. Next step then is, because of the way markets work, our risk is always macroeconomic. Rates go up, we can't do a darn thing about it. We just have to survive it. So we balance out risk and reward. And then in a situation where I would normally be tasked with getting the absolute top dollar retail value for a finished lot, I don't have to do that anymore. It takes a ton of pressure off of me, okay? I get to just say, hey, here's the lots, here's where they are, this is what they cost. Like, you want to look at my books? I don't care. It doesn't bother me a bit. And how do we make a deal that's equitable between the two of us? Because Capstone is not an entity that we own anything of, and they need to make money.
Right.
Just like Mandalay Homes needs to make money. Eco, we have ownership in, it needs to make money as well. But what it really allows me to do is sleep well at night, because I know that I have a backup plan always. If the whole thing fails and Capstone and Mandalay say, we're out, I'm headed to Tahiti or Mexico or wherever they'd like to go, Eco's stuck.
Right.
I have a home builder. And so looking across the property line at Granville, that's how Joe did it.
Yeah.
Joe builds the lots to sell to Joe's company, that he constructs the houses and markets them to the buyers. The missing, the last piece of it, and the hardest part on the financing, is getting the financing in the builder, because now we're talking about banks. If you've got 100 houses under construction at an average cost of who knows what, it's a giant mountain of money. So the phase of the build of the builder, kind of sounds weird to say it that way, but I think everybody gets it, is get our credit, our financing up, so that we're in a position to respond to the market. Right now, if a bunch of buyers showed up, we'd be happy. And then we would be able to redeploy that money, but we would not be able to take advantage of a run in the market. Not yet. Right. We don't have enough capacity. And so, someone might say, well, what do you think capacity needs to be? Into the future, it's got to be $100 million at least. Maybe it's $150. That's why public companies do this. They can go to the market and raise money. They finance themselves. Their shareholders buy stock. That stock is the cash that goes to the company. The company says, okay, we have this cash. We got to earn a return on it for our shareholders. We go to the bank. We go to private lenders, one of them being Stuart Swanson. He's our primary lender at the present time. And we have to mix and match until we get to a certain level. That level is probably, people say 200 closings a year. We close 100 houses comfortably, and I think there'll be plenty of people that want to back us, and Stuart won't have to finance us anymore. And that'll be a great day for Stuart, and frankly, it'll be a great day for me too,
Sure.
because I have to manage to that, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the in a nutshell. It's not that it makes it easy, because there's nothing easy going on here, but there's security in it because we're in the business of taking land, turning it into finished lots, and we have to have builders to buy those lots to then take the lot, make it a home lot package, and sell it to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. The debt in the marketplace surrounds Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That's what's customary. That's not a Democrat or Republican thing. That's an American thing, right? The people, home ownership's a big deal. We can talk about affordability, and I'll just get us way, off track because I love talking about real estate. But, one of my main concerns moving forward is affordability. Not necessarily from an affordable housing perspective, although that's a real thing. In our projects with our costs, how do we manage those costs and manage to a finished retail value of a home that gives us the velocity we need to run the business successfully? It's not about making $100,000 a closing. It's about making a good profit 250 times a year.
Right.
That's where we will get to eventually. It might take us 2 years, and it might take us 7. I don't know. It depends what the market does.
I just always love how, and I say it every time, your level of transparency, and it's super, just the way that you explain that, super informative, super easy to digest and understand. And I'm curious from Dave's perspective and Jason's kind of summary of the creation of Eco Homes, what would you add? What would you also kind of contribute to based on your experience and your vantage point that got you to be here and to be, starting this amazing company and opportunity?
Yeah, Jason spoke to it very well, and about the entrepreneurial aspect. Very enticing to me to be able to build such a company. I've worked for private builders and mostly the big large publics across the country and the top 5, and it's just a very different approach to development of real estate. To do it at this level, and to have the ability to do what we do, to do what I do, that's what's most enticing. And Jason's correct. I could have coasted kind of through. I was kind of at that point, and it kind of paid that price. So a lot looked at it and said, "You're crazy." Well, you have to be a little crazy, and you have to be visionary, and you have to be entrepreneurial. And then I just like the guys I work with. I really, started in the business with Jerry Abbott, who's an owner of Capstone. We owned a little business in college together, a home building little company, and started our careers in home building together. And over 30 years later, it's come full circle, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then, being able to work with Jason and this team, and like you spoke to, the transparency and the authenticity, that matters to me. And so, and that's the culture of what we're building. That's the culture of Capstone. That's the culture of Eco now. And that's what I do. I build a company, and I build a team, and I build a real culture. And so I saw all the opportunity to do what I do, and the opportunity to do it with guys like Jason and Brian and Jerry and Clint. And it's really what I call, it's just cool, So hard, difficult, challenging, risky,
Yeah.
life-changing, all those things. But that's what we do. That's what we've always done. And to be able to do it here, and with the potential, the high potential it has. So as far as Eco goes, just a really neat opportunity to build and create a brand new home building company with a ton of experience behind it and a tremendous amount of opportunity out in front of it. That's quite unique. Most home builders, they kind of stay mom and pop because they just don't have the capital and they never will have it. The big publics Jason spoke about, they have their capital different. We have what I say is really the best of both worlds. We have strong capital support. We have a tremendous land position that Jason and Stuart has built. You know, they built it over the last 13 to 14 straight years in this market. And we've got great partners and great experience to build just a really a world-class company, world-class home building operation. So that's Eco, and it's happening in short order. It's fully formed. We've opened our first community, Skyview. We will be in phase 3 here in Jasper, and Eco is going to be a premier, if not the premier, home building company in all of Yavapai County. And that's not just a dream, and that's not just a long-term vision. That's going to be a reality. It's just how fast we get there, like Jason was speaking to.
Right.
It's not if, it's when. It could be in the next 2 years, and we could surprise all of ourselves and go, wow, the market ran again, and it always does, and Eco became an accelerated success. It'll be successful, it already is. It's just how fast.
I feel like this community is lucky to have two visionaries, leaders, dynamic leaders that are inspiring at the helm, creating this amazing future. And so my last question for both of you, as we look forward to phase 3 and what's happening in that development, what can we expect? What can we expect to see? What do you expect to deliver? And I'm not asking for timing because I get it. You know, we don't have the crystal ball. But maybe paint a picture, right? Like, what is that looking like?
Well, I'll talk land and Dave can talk housing.
Perfect.
So phase 3 is an awesome piece of land. The connectivity to Highway 69 we already covered. That's going to create value for the developer, the builder, the residents. The residents we haven't met yet. The view shed obviously is forever. The buyer in phase 3 is going to be able to stand on multiple lots and not have to ask if that is my view forever, which is great. That makes our life easy. We got lucky to a certain extent when Prescott Valley, Prescott, and Yavapai County banded together to buy Glassford Hill. So to the south, we have permanent open space, and now we can make an affirmative representation, including in our public report, because government owns that land. It's retired. So there's never going to be a neighbor to the south. The proximity to the Iron King Trail, and therefore the trail system in and around the Dells, is obviously a huge draw here. Very cheap recreation, basically free, right?
Sure.
And so, and we'll be adding a trailhead. So as part of our development agreement in phase 3, there will be a public trailhead. The folks that live here already know that the public parks in a bar ditch in Granville to come utilize the trail. We have community dollars that we're required to spend contractually as part of our development agreement. So one of those amenities that is for the public will be the trailhead. I don't know when we'll start building that. We'll see. I'd like to get it done sooner versus later. It's my personal preference, but we have not yet had our plans approved where we can even really bid that thing. So we got a little ways to go. Last thing then would be the view shed. I already hit on that. I'm having a senior moment here. Views, open space, trails, trailhead. I guess that covers the big things. And moving forward, Dave will talk obviously about the housing, but what we're trying to do, we have a permit for phase 5 and a certificate of assured water supply. So in a perfect world, we would actually have phase 5 under construction presently, so that we have different price points and we have a broad menu of price points that we can hit. 2024 has not been a great year for banks and financing. And so I don't want to call that project on hold. I get lots of pressure to get that project going as soon as possible. I guess the way to say it is at the point that the market will allow us to start phase 5, we'll start phase 5 because that goes back to affordability, which in my mind just ties into what we're trying to achieve overall, which is a full offering where someone can buy a house that in metro areas, it really doesn't make sense here, but they call it entry level. 85% of our buyers are 55 or older.
Right.
There really is no entry level. There's kind of the lower end of the market, the middle of the market, and then the higher end of the market. Sometimes it's egos, sometimes it's wealth. I mean, they're just different strokes for different folks. So that'll be exciting too, and we can round out the offering finally.
Yeah, and create the products to deliver, right? So segue into Dave Homes. What can we expect with phase 3 and then beyond to phase 5?
Yeah, from the housing kind of segmentation, will be in what Jason just described with Eco, will be in the middle part of the market, which is great. It's the perfect, I think, part of the market, the place to be in that phase, in that location with those views, in that premier really section of Jasper. So Eco will be in the middle, and then Capstone will be in the upper higher end. So we'll have both of those offerings there in phase 3. In the first phase off of Jasper Parkway, there's or off the main entrance into that village or that section, there's an amazing cul-de-sac. And so Capstone will have 3 fully amenitized models with a sales center and a parking there as you come into that cul-de-sac. And then right next to it, there'll be 3 Eco models, highly amenitized in the middle part of the price point, and a nice parking and sales center separate. They all will be looking over those views that Jason spoke of, right over the top of the Jasper Club and out into just spectacular views. So, but those 2 segmentations there of the middle and upper end of the market will be there and highly, I think, demonstrated and amenitized. So super excited about it. We're hoping to maybe put it out to pre-selling in late October, early November. And we would do that from our sales centers that are open in Jasper. Okay. So we wouldn't wait to have those 6 models. We'll be able to put it out to market sooner than that, which is exciting, and get underway with production. For those who buy, we'll also do some spec, homes and start those. So we'll start to build a community very quick. And as that takes shape, and as you come down the new Jasper Parkway, you're going to see Capstone Homes flags flying, and you're going to see Eco Homes, and it's going to be spectacular. We're anticipating on Eco will be in that mid 600s on up into low to mid 800s, 2,100 square feet up to 2,700 square feet, and just the same quality that we've built in Capstone and the quality that we built at Skyview, our first Eco community, with really great architecture and amenities and landscaping and so forth. And then Capstone being that 2,200 square feet to 3,200 square feet. 3-car RV options, highly amenitized, great floor plans, 4 or 5 bedrooms for larger 2 and 3 bedrooms for the buyer that maybe just wants to downsize. So that entire offering in phase 3 is going to be, I think, perfectly positioned in Jasper for our buyer and for the future.
Right. Awesome.
Yep.
Well, thank you both for answering questions, giving a little bit of history and context, and then really painting the picture and vision going forward. I think it's an exciting time to be a Jasper resident.
Yeah.
It's an exciting time to be a Jasper prospect too, with just hearing, the opportunities that are coming down the pipe. So Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank
Marlo.
you. Yeah, it's a pleasure.